I posted a poll asking people who their favorite Jokers were, and the results were very clear, with Hamill and Ledger dominating and everyone else falling behind. So the plan was to do Hamill versus Ledger versus Phoenix. However, Hamill became difficult to handle. His role in Mask of the Phantasm is vital, as he is the main villain, but he isn't remotely as prominent as the other two in his movie. So if I just use Mask of the Phantasm, Hamill is at a disadvantage to the other two. Yet if I decide to throw the entire animated series in, he would overpower the other two just by having so much to draw upon. So it sadly became clear that someone else should take Hamill's place. That person being Jack Nicholson, since his version really defined every Joker that came afterwards. So who is the best Joker? Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, or Joaquin Phoenix?
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
And here we go.
First off, I know technically Jack Napier isn't wearing makeup and is actually supposed to have his skin discolored, but let's just roll with it. First, the newest Joker, Joaquin Phoenix. We see his Joker the least, despite him having easily the most screen time of any of the other actors. His Joker took joy in creating chaos in Gotham with his actions, but he isn't remotely the same Joker as the other two. This Joker is an anti-hero, only killing those who wronged him directly. You could easily argue that some of the people he kills aren't deserving of a death sentence, and you'd be correct. But he never kills a completely innocent person in this movie, something the other two would do in a heartbeat. It also doesn't help that this Joker doesn't have any of the plans of the previous two. Then we get Jack Nicholson, who played the Joker as a madman who pursued whatever he wanted whenever he wanted. He is capable of complex schemes like the makeup pit and gassing the people of Gotham with free money. But we also see that he's a creature of impulse. He destroys things and kills Bob without a second thought, just because he felt like it.
Bob? Gun.
Logically, you would assume these two elements of his character would contradict each other, and this movie could be used to explore the differences between long-term plans and short-term gratification, but this movie doesn't do anything with it. Last, but certainly not least, is Heath Ledger, an agent of chaos who isn't remotely a chaos himself. He has plans like Nicholson, and while some of his actions might seem impulse-driven, he never actually diverges from his plan. His plan is simply to throw as much as possible into chaos, to prove that people down in their core are selfish beings, that the world wants to be crazy, and the civilized look of the world is nothing more than a thin veneer.
They're schemers. Schemers trying to control their little worlds. I'm not a schemer. I try to show the schemers how pathetic their attempts to control things really are.
None of the Jokers are in any way a physical threat to Batman. They are intellectual threats to Gotham. I don't see Phoenix's Joker lasting long against any version of Batman. Nicholson's didn't fare well either and lucked out when Batman installs the worst targeting system in the universe on the Batwing. Only Ledger seemed prepared for Batman, and in fact seemed inspired by Batman and worked the destruction of Batman's ideology into his plan. Add to it, Ledger is just insanely terrifying whenever he's on screen. Ledger wins with Nicholson in second.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan?
Ledger is impossible to judge here since we never see him before becoming the Joker. Everything he says about his past is either a lie or probably a lie. You might say it's unfair to keep this category in the comparison. However, the goal here is to show which version gives us the most well-rounded character, and in this department, Ledger has almost nothing. That leaves us with two real competitors. Let's look at the newest one first. Arthur Fleck is a man with limited resources. He works as a clown to pay for himself and his mother, and judging from his weight, he isn't doing a good job taking care of himself. He has psychological issues that he gets medication and help for, but government cuts cause him to lose this support, and slowly but surely, he loses his mind, and we see his grip on reality fall away from him. He also discovers that his mother suffers from insanity as well, and that doesn't help him. Finally, we have Jack Napier, who is a lieutenant under Gotham's criminal boss Grisham. He is sleeping with the boss's girlfriend and likes to look at cards, as well as kill informants working for his boss. He essentially is a much more tamed version of the Joker he will later become. Arthur is a much more complex character and easily gets the win with Jack in second.
All I have are negative thoughts.
Now, time for the purely superficial. Who has the best look as the Joker? Phoenix is essentially wearing his clown makeup from his job in the beginning of the movie with dyed green hair and a colorful suit. It works for this movie, but it's not comic book accurate or memorable in any way save for the blue on his face. Ledger is pure makeup as well, with one addition: his scars, which are incredibly terrifying and really add to his look. His suit is far more memorable as well. He largely defines the look of the Joker since the movie was released. Next, we have Nicholson, who does wear makeup, but to look normal. It's something that is a really cool idea, and if Burton had decided to use this and juxtapose it to Batman and say Batman is the real person while Bruce Wayne is the false front like Joker does with Jack Napier, it would be cool. However, he doesn't do that, and instead we just get a Joker who has to apply makeup to look normal. I like it, but does his hair bother anyone else? Does he dye it brown, then back to green, then back to brown? Or does he have a brown wig? His suits are also the most colorful of the bunch. If we're going for which one has the closest to comic book look, it would be Nicholson. If we go for the scarier look, it's Ledger. Since we are dealing with a comic book character, how he looks in comparison to his origins must count for something. I think they both have great looks, but Nicholson gets the win with Ledger in second.
You know how concerned people are about appearances. This is attractive, that is not. Well, that is all behind me.
Arcs are a bit tricky because these are villains for the most part, and their goal is to push the hero along their arc. However, it's not impossible to judge on these standards. Nicholson is really just insane. Essentially, his Joker is just a souped-up version of the gangster we got at the beginning. He does what he wants when he wants. He never learns anything. Phoenix is the only clear arc in the bunch. He starts out just some guy with issues trying desperately to maintain his home life and his mental health, with the world trying desperately to break those things. Slowly but surely, he loses his fight until he fully embraces his clown persona and becomes the Joker. Ledger is like Nicholson, where there is no real change in his character. He is dedicated to his belief that humans are animals just waiting for an excuse to be set free. That civilized society is a fabrication. He isn't completely wrong, but he is also missing the point. We evolve by living in these social constructs we make for ourselves. Yes, society has problems, but how we handle it shows not only what type of person we are, but what type of world we want to live in. Something he never learns in this movie. Of all of these, only one really has an arc. One never learns, and the other just does whatever. This is an easy win for Phoenix, with Ledger in second.
Murray, one small thing.
Yeah.
When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker?
Time for controversy. Tim Burton is an incredibly overrated filmmaker. I like his stuff, but people tend to rank his stuff as some of the best ever when I just find it entertaining. If I had to guess, it's because of his strong visual style. 1989's Batman, as well as its follow-up, are absolutely overrated. In fact, I would argue that 1989's Batman might be the perfect example of a Tim Burton movie. It's overall fun and comes close to having quite a few good points, but never really establishes anything. Joker is actually a much more focused movie. For all the pomp and circumstance about it being about a man driven mad by society, it doesn't have nearly that much to say about society. There are ideas here about how the wealthy push the poor down and how people have a breaking point. Perhaps that message would have come across stronger if Arthur didn't have clear mental issues throughout the movie. Finally, we have The Dark Knight, which is a movie that actually asks questions about society. Batman wants to show that people are capable of good, while the Joker is dedicated to proving that it's all facade. In the end, Joker is capable of pushing Harvey Dent over the edge, but fails to do it to the whole city. Essentially, we have an entertaining but overrated movie, a good movie, and one of the best comic book movies ever. This is fairly simple. Dark Knight wins with Joker in second.
Can't rely on anyone these days. You gotta do everything yourself, don't we?
DC is a comic book company that likes its reboots. Like Spider-Man, we will have to pick this by choosing which is the most accurate to the spirit of the character. For what it's worth, Mark Hamill will have dominated this section. Ledger and Nolan's isn't based on any specific version of the Joker, and goes for more of a mystery as to how he was created and who he was exactly. He is a reaction to Batman, which is a very interesting take, and the Joker's reliance on Batman is frequently hit upon in the comic book.
We act.
But,
Gotham City belongs to the Batman.
Batman. Darling.
Tim Burton borrows somewhat on the Killing Joke in Batman, with his Joker falling into a vat of chemicals to become the Joker. Unfortunately, that's about it. Joker killing Thomas and Martha Wayne and the whole identity of Jack Napier are all created solely for this movie. Joker is also very impulse-driven here, and while the comic book Joker acts like he's impulsive, he typically has plans to his actions. Finally, we have Phoenix, who is more based on Taxi Driver and King of Comedy than anything from the comic books. There is the talk show scene that is partially and very loosely inspired by The Dark Knight Returns. The idea of the Joker being a failed comedian comes from the Killing Joke.
To be a comedian, to make people laugh, because when they laugh, they feel good. The thing is, they didn't. Now I'm not feeling good.
Of course, him being an anti-hero that only kills people who wrong him is purely a creation for this movie. It's clear none of these stories come close to actually giving us a comic book Joker, but if we look strictly at the spirit of the character, it has to go to Ledger for acting like a man out of control who actually has very complex plans in the work. Second would have to go to Nicholson for at least being a villain.
And why do you want to kill me? I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you?
Ledger winning isn't surprising. That performance was simply amazing and elevated a good movie into one of the greats. It's shocking how well Nicholson fared against Phoenix, although the fact that Phoenix is less your classic Joker and more just a story of a man going insane and calling himself Joker. Still a good movie, but hardly the classic Joker that goes up against Batman. I simply don't see his Joker having a real chance fighting the Dark Knight, which hurts him quite a bit.
What do you want?
My face on the $1 bill.
I'm only burning my half. All you care about is money. This town deserves a better class of criminal.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be.
Pain don't hurt.